Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.
Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show, sponsored by Arnold Clark. I'm Peter Martin, Alan Ruff, Tam Cowan and Hugh McDonald here with me on this Thursday. It's a wonderful day. We're delighted that you could join us. Don't forget to like, share and follow on Facebook. And of course, you can subscribe on our YouTube channel and you can follow us on Twitter. We're live on Twitter, Periscope as well. So lots of platforms. Apologies for being slightly late. But that, Ruffy, is just basically down to the dimwit, which is Tam Cowan, who needed to be told exactly what to do. Is that fair, Rafi?
Technical ability, you know, that I mean, he got it fixed. That's the main thing.
Yeah. When Ruffy's advising you on technical ability.
Exactly. He forgets we've been watching these nostalgic football games from the 70s and he's having a go at me about technical ability. I'd actually some Peruvians and Iranians onto me this week saying that when they watched the games, they reckon your eyesight was so bad you should have drove to Barnard Castle.
Yes, exactly. Oh, it's been a hotly contested one on this programme. Listen, we've got lots to discuss, including, of course, we've got a brilliant one-to-one with John McGinn, the Aston Villa midfielder, and, of course, Scotland midfielder. He talks about lots of things, ambition, Scotland, Villa escaping relegation, has a wee pop at the Scottish Premiership as well, and it's well worth listening to. John McGinn at his absolute best. Patter is good, and boy, do we need him, Hugh McDonald, when Scotland eventually get back out there.
Yeah, apart from one of the good guys, what a story he is as well. What he's injected not only into you know, Aston Villa and become a immediate hero down there, is what he's injected into the Scotland team, which is a lot of energy and pace in midfield and goals too, Peter. So looking forward to listening. He's always interesting to talk to as well as John.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, let's throw this up to you.
I have to disagree, though, Peter. I have to disagree about, you know, John McGinn being the man for when Scotland start back, because I really don't know what a 58-year-old midfielder is going to add to the team. So, got to disagree.
Yeah, John McGinn. Right, okay, I've missed that. Somebody enlighten me on it. You know, that's gone. That's gone.
I was just saying that. I was just saying that we don't need John McGinn when Scotland start back, because what use will a 58-year-old midfielder be?
Right, okay, right. I'm still gone. I'm still lost on that. Explain it to me.
I don't think we're going to start back anytime soon. Okay.
Sorry, Tam.
Away you and get a drink. Away and get a right good drink. That's what you need. You're doing too many of these shows.
Oh, Tam, I'm giving you 100% apology. How thick can I get today?
Thank you.
Sorry, Tam. Anyway, apart from that, John McGinn, 58 or not, is on. By the time we get him on, he's well worth listening to. Listen, the other thing I was going to quickly say to you guys is we've got a wee quiz to see if you can work out which year the team of the year, we're putting up teams of the year that were voted for over the course of a season. This was through the PFA. They would announce their team of the year. So there's one: Borich, Whittaker, Anderson, McManus and Naylor, Naismith, Ferguson, Brown, Nakamura, Boyd and McDonald. Can you guess what season they were all voted in as the team of the year in the PFA? We'll give you the answer by the end of the programme. And coming up also, Roughie, and I don't know if you witnessed to this, Tam, yesterday, Tam McManus named the 11 best players that he's played with. And Roughie has delivered his 11 best players. Later on today, you will see a team that I don't think Barry Ferguson will be able to come up with, Roughie, that's going to beat you. I don't know.
Well, most of them are in my team are obviously for the international era. Most of them have got European Cup winners' medals. It remains to be seen how many. Barry will pick a good side. There's no doubt about that. But I think these guys were all playing at the top of their game.
No harm to the guys, Peter, but it comes up in the show a lot. When you look back at these games that we've all been watching on a variety of sports channels, the guys from Roughie's era, everyone's a household name, you know, and in fact, they should almost be kind of criminal charges brought upon these guys, why they didn't win anything, quite frankly, because some of the teams, I watched it a couple of weeks ago there, it was a couple of games for the 78 World Cup, and then a couple for 1982, and even right through, I would say, to 86, we had guys that really should have put a dent in world football, but they were absolute household names, great teams.
Tam,
You
you're
usually blame the
100%
goalie,
correct.
Tam.
Well,
Usually blame the goalie, Tam.
I can't believe Tam's forgotten all about history. The reason why they didn't win it is they were too busy arguing about money, trying to get a ladder to get out the doors of the hotel window as well. And they were all burying. And some of them were getting sent home, Tam. I don't know if you remember it or not.
Absolutely. And terrible adverts with them all popping out the door of a car, and sticking their head out. But I can still see Bruce Rioch doing that, Players now, quite frankly, wouldn't do that. They'd refuse point blank, or their agents would tell them, you're not doing that. They're making a hin end of you, But how much did you get for anything like that, Roughie, back in the day?
Went into the pool. There was a pool that Fingers, I don't know if you know, Alan Ferguson, he looked after the Scotland pool, and all the money went in there, and it just get divvied up at the end. I think we all got, at the end, I think we got £330 or something like that.
Yeah,
I do know Alan, and more to the point, I know how he got his nickname.
I was just about to say, am I right in thinking, Roughie, Bruce Rioch put his head out of a Chrysler Sunbeam, or was it a Chrysler Alpine?
Chrysler.
Okay.
Sunbeam. I think it was a Sunbeam. It was Aziza Hartford's eyes you want to have a look at the next time you see that.
Because he's puggled. Yes, there you are.
For goodness sake.
Okay. Also, I could say, Alec Kelly says, Roughie could have been in goals in Brazil in the 70s and 80s because their keepers were ranked rotten too. How harsh is that, Alec? Because Roughie was a top goalkeeper, I have to tell you. There are some people who don't obviously get the memories of Roughie when he was at his absolute peak. He was a top drawer, I have to tell you. Listen, guys, lots of things to talk about. Hugh McDonald, on Monday, the Premiership will deliberate the proposal for reconstruction from Anne Budge, and then from there it's got to be 11-1. I am certainly getting more and more angry reading about people dismissing it before.
It's not got a chance, Peter, if it survives the Premiership, which I doubt, it's not going to get through the Championship. There's a variety of reasons for that. One is every club will be looking after their own interests, particularly in this time, and this reconstruction could, particularly if it's a temporary one, could foretell severe relegations a year, 2 years down the line. Nobody's going to vote for that. Politically, Anne Budge has been naive, inept in this, so she's not brought people with her. There's certainly a strong resistance politically, even in the Championship, which would torpedo it on its own. So the only hope of reconstruction, I think, is that the carnage that is coming for Scottish football makes it the only practical thing to do because of clubs going out of business. But her proposals at the moment will sink, if not on Monday, which I think they will do, certainly later in the week.
I don't know if you caught that point there, but Tam, what I was going to say is I'm actually getting angrier by the day reading that some clubs are just booting this out before it even gets off the ground. I mean, Neil Doncaster supposedly being quite positive about her proposals to try and influence people because of where we are. But, I'm reading it day in, day out, chairman saying, they're not going to vote for it. And this petty mindedness is doing my head in.
Absolutely. And my take on this, Peter, I keep mentioning Hearts and Partick Thistle, et cetera, Stranraer. And I was disappointed as well, bitterly disappointed when I saw what the leagues would be under Anne Budge's plan. It all looked good written down. But then I noticed, while it seems that we're looking after, of course, Hearts and Partick Thistle and Stranraer, there wasn't a sniff there for Brora or Kelty, who we keep coming back to now. I thought the idea here was, in Anne Budgie's mind, that we were meant to look after all the clubs who would have been punished due to a global pandemic. Well, quite frankly, we've not done that for the clubs in the Highland League and the Lowland League, who had built themselves up for a crack at the senior leagues. Now, obviously, only one of them ultimately was going to get a go at Brecon City to see if they could beat the Glebe Park side to get up into the senior leagues. But I still think we've got to fit that in somewhere. I think it's ridiculous. You either do this properly or we don't. But essentially, I will still side with Anne Budge and indeed the Jambos, because I think, and they and Partick Thistle, I suppose, are the headline news out of this, I just still think it's utterly preposterous that we can punish these clubs when they both clearly had a very, very good chance of saving their own skins. It's absolutely scandalous, and there's plenty of time yet still to fix it.
Roughie, I know you've had your say on it. The other story that came out today was the fact that Anne Budge looks as if she's rejected a possible takeover. This is the son of George Gillette, who used to be the owner of Liverpool. This is Foster Gillette. He has put together a proposal, and she said the only people who are going to get this club are the Hearts fans when the time is right, obviously.
Yeah, and quite rightly so. I think the Hearts fans, right from the early days of the trouble, the financial trouble they're in, have supported the club. They've all signed their direct debits. They've all really, really backed the club, and they still are backing the club, and they've been backing them for the last 2 years, particularly with money. So she's right in saying, no, these are the players. But we've heard this on numerous occasions, Peter, and I know that our game's in a bit of a mess just now, but there are actively business people want to buy into Scottish football. You know, there are people who see our football as a starting venue for some kind of, you know, to get into a club, you know, but certainly it's not going to happen at Hearts.
Well, I love the way you have put a lovely spin on that, Roughie, because the way I look at it, Hugh, is I see a lot of prospectors looking at Scottish football and thinking, you know, we could pick this up, the wreckage or the carcass of clubs who are folding for next to nothing and make it a quick flip.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, you've got to look at where the nadir of Scottish football is at the moment in terms of economics. You've got to look too that where Hearts can become very attractive in that their infrastructure there. They've got a fine stadium with good infrastructure. They've got a dedicated fan base. We know that. So it would make them attractive to some buyers. I think at the moment, everything economically is in such flux, Peter, that people will be looking about and looking at things that are undervalued and looking to invest in them.
Yeah, Gary, Gordon, who's on YouTube, has said, is that the same jacket Tam had on last week? Well, I don't know if you are aware of this. Basically, Tam's just decided for the last 10 weeks just not to get into any clobber whatsoever. He's itching to get in the next series of Afterlife with Ricky Gervais, because you haven't changed down on that gear, Tam, have you?
No. This is a dressing gown that I've got on. Last week it was pyjamas, and the week before that it was a lighter blue dressing gown. And I feel relaxed and comfortable under lockdown. And the only thing I need to do, though, Peter, is get my hair cut. I mean, look at the nick of that.
Oh,
that's
wow.
been nearly three months without a haircut. It's absolutely terrible. So I think the next global catastrophe that we have, and I'm maybe looking at guys like Trump and Putin and Kim Jong-un for this. I'm hoping it's more of the nuclear sort, and then just my hair starts falling out because I've seen all the films.
Yeah,
Threads and the day after and all that. So yeah.
How have you handled lockdown, Tam?
I've been fine. We've got food in the house. My wee girl is getting schooled at home. The sun has been shining, and there are a hell of a lot of people worse off than any of the four of us that are doing this programme today. So you just get on with it. You enjoy your telly. You enjoy watching your films. If you enjoy a wee drink, then have a wee drink and enjoy it. And it'll be over before we know it. And then just hopefully, that's where it might get a bit tough for people, Peter, when we think it's increasingly likely that Scottish football, when it does come back, we're not going to be allowed to go and watch it. We're going to be sitting, as we are today, staring at screens. And that's going to be quite surreal. And I know even that Hughie, the big fan of the Bundesliga, when we were talking last week, I know you'd have been slightly disheartened, Hughie, by the whole German football scenario, because it just wasn't the same, quite frankly. And we keep talking about our fans back in Roughie's day, when it kind of all kicked off. Our fans were known the world over. Everybody knows about the great passion that Scottish guys have for our football, and I just dread to think what it's going to be like without that. And if it was financially possible, Peter, and I know there's still this talk of the lower leagues mothballing and no playing any football until we can actually get the fans back in post-vaccine. But if I thought that was possible for the top flight, that is really, really what I would like. And we could maybe all find something else today until it starts back. But it's going to be weird. It's going to be really, really strange for me watching Motherwell on a screen and no sitting there with my pals. It's actually going to be heartbreaking. Not looking forward to it at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And Roughie, I mean, I know that it's just a slight easing of the lockdown for tomorrow. There's still got to be social distancing, and then, that'll be phase 1 in Scotland. It could be a situation, Roughie, I don't know about you, but in our village, where money wasn't, in great supply, we used to all get on a double-decker bus and head to Ayr for our holiday weekend, and you'd get a Quenchy cup, you'd get a cake with a sausage roll and maybe a Tunnock's caramel wafer, Roughie, and you were out to Ayr for the weekend, and then you come back in the weekend, the day, and then you come back in the double-decker bus and it dropped you off in the village again.
Yeah, I think we're all there. I think we've all done that. We used to do it with the BB. BB used to take us away in the double-decker bus and Saltcoats or somewhere like that, and we had a fantastic time, and we just lived within our means. We had a fantastic day, and we come back and obviously went back to your family, and it was super. But I think these things still happen, but not in the same extent.
Well, I can interrupt you there. I did that last year, Peter. That was my holidays last year. Wonderful day out. Down to Ayr and back with my Jubilee. Do you remember the Jubilees, Peter? You too young for a Jubilee?
Yeah. No, Jubilee.
My Jubilee, my wee egg sandwich. Happy as a Larry, Peter. Happy as Larry.
Absolutely. Tam, Burnt Island.
Yeah, it was me, the old, you remember them, Peter, the central SMT buses that left for Motherwell Library for the day trips. Yes. You got your wee tickets out of Gardner's, which was next to the candy box in Motherwell, and you could just go with your pals, and it was tremendous, and it was invariably down to Ayr or Prune. Girvan was another hot spot. That seemed like going to another country almost, because that was way down the coast. And terrific days. And almost, I know we're going to get Hughie a wee tear down his face as we nudge towards Hughie's evacuation period. He was a boy and been sent with his brother and sister into the country.
That was it. That evacuation problem still exists, pal. But they're calling it irritable bowel system now.
Actually, got right when they originally called me pal there. It was the threatening Hughie of the 70s there. They actually called it pal. If only you'd one of your wee whiskey bottles at home there, I was getting it. Pal.
Roughie, I mean, the amazing thing is, Roughie, I don't know if you, when you were at the World Cup in 1982, and Tam, you'll know all about this. When you were at the World Cup in 1982, Roughie, I was going down in an old battered Toyota Corolla with my mates, and we managed to get a flat in Blackpool for a tenner.
Wow.
and we all steamed in. That's all I'm telling you. When you were signing your deals with your Chrysler Alpine on top of the pops, singing all your songs that you were singing, Roughie. Anyway, the one thing I was going to say here, and Tam, you can back me up on this, because on this day, Nottingham Forest won the European Cup for the second time. I mean, what a team it was. And by the way, there were 4 Scottish players in the team, Tam, and 1 Scottish player come on as a sub, John O'Hare. I don't know if you remember him.
Right.
So the team was Shilton, Anderson, Lloyd, Kenny Burns and Frank Gray. Then it was Martin O'Neill, Ian Boyer, John McGovern, who was Scottish, John Robertson, who was Scottish, Gary Mills and Gary Birtles. They defeated Hamburg, who had Manny Kaltz, Felix Magath and Kevin Keegan in their side, and John Robertson scored the winner. Now, Tam, I'm going to tell you, it was before you joined this show. One of my favourite players of all time in Scotland is the man who played out on the left-hand side, who was a genius, in John Robertson. Now, I couldn't even get him into my all-time World Scotland 11 with this mob on your left-hand side. They wouldn't even vote him in. John Robertson wouldn't even vote him in. I was fighting, and I still couldn't get him in.
Brilliant player, and if memory serves, I was only young when he was in his pomp, but a brilliant penalty taker as well. But the thing that always stuns me about that team, Peter, in that era with Nottingham Forest, and we'll never see that time again, is that how it was possible, correct me if I'm wrong, for John McGovern to lift the European Cup twice but never win a cap for Scotland. Can you imagine that happening nowadays? If we had a player out there somewhere who was Scottish, who lifts the European Cup twice, but he doesn't get a look in for the national team. But to be fair, though, and Rafi will maybe help explain, particularly for the younger viewers, who exactly the guys were that were keeping him out of the team, because we clearly had an embarrassment of riches. So who would it have been, Rafi, that meant John McGovern didn't get a sniff?
It'd have been, obviously, Archie Gemmell. It'd have been Asa Hartford. Don Masson was in at that time as well, so there was a lot, and there was the Scottish boys as well. Bruce Rio, there was a fair, but you're right, he was a sort of a silent player, not one of these players that would go through a game and he wouldn't be picked as man of the match, but he probably was man of the match. You know what I mean? They would pick a bigger name than him, but he was a super player.
I can tell you, actually,
Peter, sorry, just while we're talking about the English scene, the joys of doing programmes like this. If you remember, I think it was maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, you mentioned, I think it had maybe happened the day that we were on, the sad passing of the Leeds United great Trevor Cherry. Do you remember we were talking about that in the show? Yeah. Well, I mentioned how the minute I thought of Trevor Cherry, which gives your precise age away, I just thought of him as a panini sticker. And the amazing thing was there was no fewer than 7 people who were obviously watching who got in touch, and they all sent me either by email or by some boys that I knew in WhatsApp. They somehow found it for me, and it was just Trevor Cherry's panini sticker. And it was just that look that you absolutely associate, with the guy. And it's a bit like Roughie. When you saw the Scotland-Holland game again for 7-8 the other night, that image just a Roughie, there was a great capture that somebody had put a wee screenshot on Twitter, and it was just Rafi at the edge of the box about to kick the ball with the tightest of tight shorts that you've ever seen, and the hair just about beneath the light blue baseball cap, and that just, wow, it just takes you back 42 years. Incredible. That stuff's been brilliant. The games have been great to watch again.
My bit. One of the good ones of John Robertson was in 82 when we were driving in the bus into Sotogrande where we were staying, and we were all sitting there looking out the window, and Kenny Dalglish shouts, "Oh, you better stop the bus. The back of the bus is on fire." There was a bold Robbo up the back with cigarette. His smoke was all on the back of the bus.
Yeah, I have to say, it didn't hamper his overall play. He was an absolute genius. And interestingly enough, I did a 1-to-1 with John McGovern. John McGovern was part of 4 players that Ali MacLeod mentioned to the Nottingham press. He said 4 Nottingham Forest players are going to be in it. All Scots that are in the Nottingham Forest team are going to be in the Scotland squad for Argentina. And John McGovern thought he was going to be there. And then, so they got all 4 of them in kilts and put it on the back pages. And when Ali announced the squad, John McGovern wasn't there and everybody was going mental. John McGovern was gobsmacked. And then later he found out Ali didn't even know he was Scottish. So it left him absolutely gutted. It's his one big regret.
I need to ask,
above that,
can I ask Hughie McDonald there as a lifelong newspaper man, Hughie, something that I've not seen for a while, and I'd like you to maybe hazard a guess at when it last happened. When was the last time a player, non-Scottish, signed for Celtic or Rangers and was pictured on the back page of the Daily Record wearing a kilt?
I know it does. Do you know what I blame it on, Tam? I blame it on the demise of John Martin. You know, I blame it on the demise of John Martin. For people of a certain age, who was the Airdrieonian goalkeeper, who would do absolutely anything a photographer asked to publicise a match. But as we allude back to what happened earlier when we were talking about the Asa Hartfords and Bruce Reeves of this world, who are top players doing things for the press, for a pool that would pay them out 330 quid for reaching the cup final. Players now just don't entertain that stuff. And by the way, they've got that buffer now of PR people at clubs, where you go to the PR people and say, can we get this? Or photographers say, can we get not? You'll get a picture of them with a scarf in front of the sponsors board, and you'll be happy with that. Next. Simple as that.
Absolutely.
Is there anything more depressing for lifelong fans? And I think the Celtic and Rangers fans normally get the rough end of the stick with us when it might be a fans function or a Player of the Year ceremony or whatever, and the club basically stick up a couple of guys for the youth team, you know, and they think that the fans are meant to be happy with that. Fans that have paid a fortune in season tickets, and just by the nature of the beast, the players that are trotted out at these functions, they've never actually seen any of them playing because they're so far down the pecking order. I always think it's an absolute disgrace. Whereas in Hughie's day, and as Hughie and all his the great names of Scottish football journalism of the past, where these guys, as Hughie will back me up on, used to just pick up the phone to be it, you know, Jim Baxter or Billy McNeil, and you'd get a 2-page interview.
Absolutely, and one of the things coming into Celtic, if you were like Shuggy Edvilson and you were coming in from Iceland or wherever, if you were a foreigner, Darius Dovcek coming in from Poland, the first thing you were told when you come into the dressing room is there's a rota here, and every Saturday or Sunday, but it's particularly every Saturday, players will have to be sent to club functions, particularly at the end of the season, and you just go. That's the way. That's the way it is. You just go. You might turn up late because you're playing till 5 o'clock, and you have to have your bath, and you've got to drive to Elgin but that's the way. That's the way it is. And I'm talking about players that have won European Cups doing that. You know, I'm talking about the guy who's very strong on that. Or the strongest I ever met on that would be Billy McNeil. He was hugely strong on that. He would entertain any excuses.
Well, I know Tam Burns would do it regularly, but I have to tell you, Hugh, I have to offer a bit of balance on this from you two, going back to the greats of yesteryear. Yes, indeed, I must emphasise, there are still some good PR people working at clubs. There are some really good ones. And I was speaking, and it's a point you make. Remember as well, a lot of the players, and I'm not talking just about foreign players here, a lot of the players are reluctant to do anything now. They're so mollycoddled, and some of them need to take a long, hard look at themselves. But I was speaking to the PR guy at Aston Villa, where John McGinn, and he was telling us John McGinn is a dream. He's down to earth. He's a dream person. Jack Grealish, equally so, a dream, because they are willing to do things and willing to go that extra mile. The only balance I would offer you, Hugh, is it becomes ever more difficult sometimes for clubs, and I include maybe the broadcast, I certainly include the written press, at tight 80s and maybe the 80s more so. The reason why there was a kickback is because you had a number of players who were done in with photographers following them to certain cities and doing them in. And I think there was there's a kind of a real, we maybe at times have overstepped the mark as the broadcast, and we got it in the neck. Is that fair?
Aye, that's fair. And see the thing, I've got no problem with it. I mean, to go back to your first point, there's a huge amount, a great amount of players nowadays who are absolutely top notch and who do things privately for charity. I know them, I talk to them, and they don't even want publicity for it. They're very aware of their role in society and really good guys. And I think part of the detachment from the media is what you say. Another thing is that they are now assets to their clubs in terms of media. So they don't want to give them away when they've got their own channels, their own media outlets. They don't want to give it away.
Hugh, give me peace, by the way. Honestly, I mean, it's going to be a tough game on Saturday. I mean, for God's sake, I've yet to meet one person on a club TV channel who's had a difficult question to ask. You can give them, I mean, you can give them training, but get them out there and let them speak to people, for God's sake. I mean, half of the players won't speak to you for 25 years, but they want to come into the game and be a media panelist 25 years after they've chucked it. You know. Yep. Put them up in front of them and give them a chance to speak.
Yeah, you'll find that. I mean, you find it amongst managers as well. But one of the things about the John McGinn and the Aston Villa media manager is that what we should be doing, Peter, to get exclusive interviews is getting the likes of me and Tam to be media managers at Manchester United, Manchester City, because that's what you did with Tommy Jordan, who was once famously starts off as a PLZ analyst, and now is director of communications at Aston Villa. So that's what we should be doing. We should be placing Gab and all that at the top levels of English Premier League clubs.
Roughie, Tam is the man who replaced Thomas Jordan. It was a fair swap. It was a Bosman ruling. We got Tam Cowan and Thomas Jordan went to Aston Villa.
Yeah,
I thought I'd replace Gordon Smith. Wait, No, I haven't.
No.
I'll never forget that day Thomas Jordan sang to us. The song the Glasgow, was it Glasgow City of Culture in the Garden Centre?
Festival.
The festival. I can't remember what the song was, but he loved
These were the days. Yeah. The vintage days.
Yeah. With Tam, the great thing is Tam is a clear indication of what this show's all about. Tam will still sing on the show, but Thomas Jordan was singing on the show 8 years ago. But the thing that made it really funny there was 65-year-old man reminds 68-year-old man what Thomas was singing about in the first place. It's absolutely fantastic. It's like it's Victor Meldrew stuff here on this programme. Anyway, just out of curiosity, guys, transfers abound. I'm reading some of the papers and they're saying, the Celtic, Hearts, Hibs, Motherwell, everybody will be looking to some of the players that are available. I'm looking at some of the players. Some of them are half-decent players that are going to be struggling to get a club. I mean, Ricky Foster, we had him on yesterday. He's available. I ran into Stephen Henry this morning, who started his career at Hamilton, went to West Ham. He's available. You've got Stephen Whittaker out there in the market, Tam Cowan. There's so many people. Paul Payton as well from Dunfermline. So many good players will be there to be snatched up, and I wonder if they will be.
Absolutely. It does make managers and club scouts or whatever seem like the ultimate vultures. Because, the way they'd be hovering just now, looking at clubs that potentially could be mothballed until there is a vaccine, or if we want to be really bleak about it, maybe even looking at players who are at clubs that they think might be in danger of even surviving this. But it's going to be really interesting. But I think, that's how I was quite stunned by Rangers. I mean, I know there's a lot of folks saying, where did Rangers get £5 million for the boy Hadji and all that? I don't know the last time that any club, even a Man United or a Liverpool, would have paid all the money up front for a player. These things are almost, you can pay them up so much per month almost. It's like old days buying a telly. So I wasn't really surprised at that, but it was just the very idea of any club in Scotland. It gave me a wee jolt entering into the transfer market and paying cash, because I'm just looking at Motherwell now. We keep getting the very good and very reassuring messages from our chairman, who we got one in last week that just basically said, you probably got one date, Peter, it just came in that said the Motherwell fans in no way whatsoever will you lose out if you buy a season ticket. They've made us these clear promises in print saying that if it ends up that next season there's a shortage of games, then your season ticket will continue into the next season, or you will be offered a cashback kind of deal. And what they also said at Motherwell, I thought was more than decent, was that our first, for season ticket holders next year, and whenever it is we play these games, but our first Europa League game is going to be free of charge. We're going to get a ticket for that. Now, considering, Peter, before MD comes in with the wisecracks, considering that we ordinarily in the 6 or 7 years fairly recently that we get into Europe, it seemed on an annual basis, we tend to only get the one round. So for Motherwell to basically say to our season ticket holders, there's a ticket when the European games are played, I thought that was pretty decent. But by and large, you think, where is the money going to come from for any club to actually buy players? That is exactly why they will be hovering around these other clubs. And there's a lot of managers that will know exactly where there's key talent just lurking and maybe waiting to get a wee move to their club. That's going to be fascinating when they finally get the nod that, you know, two months from now we're starting the new season. It's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, I'll tell you what also will be fascinating, Roughie. More than a few players looking and saying, wait a minute, you're talking about deferring wages, you're talking about 50% pay cuts, and you're out there talking to clubs. I mean, Hearts have fallen foul of it in the last 2 months, you know, looking at lists of players that they're thinking of buying. Mm-hmm. Simon Murray's mentioned today, you know, the former Hibs player, he said he's been talking to 3 Premiership clubs now. I don't know about you, Rafi, but I think a lot of people are looking closely and thinking, where is the money coming from? What are you doing? You're ducking and diving and trying to play it clever.
Yeah. I mean, I think Foster touched on it yesterday, Peter, and I know there's a lot. I don't want to start knocking clubs, but I know that a lot of clubs in the first and second division are saying we're going to go out the game, and I've said it on numerous occasions, and Richard Foster said it yesterday as well. Our season finishes in May, June and July. There is no income from supporters in these 3 months for these clubs. You know, so they've really seriously got to have a look at themselves and are they managing their clubs properly? Because, okay, if this virus wasn't here, at this moment in time, there'd be no income coming into these clubs because the season would be finished. So they've got to look at the structure of their club. But I think players now have got a bigger dilemma because it's all going to be about what clubs they think they can go to and what club's budget is for getting these players. You know, Stephen Whittaker will be on a fair whack, I would think. I would be guessing. But whatever club he thinks he's going to go to might be 50% of what he's on at Hibs. You know, that's what a lot of players will have to... They'll have to realise...
The good thing is, and I'm thinking, sorry, Rafi, I'm thinking primarily here, a boy like Lawrence Shankland, who I would imagine with the headlines that he got last season, and of course helping shoot Dundee United right up back into the top flight, you imagine that just the natural order of things would be for a club, I don't know, in the English Championship, just to reach down the back of their couch, pull out what for them is loose change, and chuck it at Dundee United and take Shankland down.
That's Tam. I think this point, you know, Tam's talking about, you know, like guys like Shanklin become, you know, would have been in normal days a target for championship clubs. There's a lot of truth in that, and it extends even further up the league. Peter, I was always, as you know, having made calls, etc. as well, I was always of very strong opinion, for example, that Odsonne Edouard would leave Celtic. And this break, this season break, I'm not sure of that at all because of the change of landscape.
Yeah, do you think Morelos will go?
Well, I tell you one thing. I really don't know. There is the answer, but I think his price will have dropped considerably for a variety of reasons. They're not back. They're not selling him when he's hot. We know that the different issues, namely, you know, the poor form since January. I think it'll be a decision for Rangers where they might have to say. I mean, I think the player. I think it's most people would concede that the player's keen to go. So you know, how do Rangers balance that against, say, a player who is at worst or at best slightly dissatisfied and a price and perhaps not that they want? Do they suck on that and just say, well, it's best for everybody if he parts? But I don't think you can predict anything in this transfer window now, Peter, the way I would have before coronavirus.
Well, if you look at social media and you look at papers and sometimes right across the broadcast media, if somebody has a photograph of him cuddling Steven Gerrard, everybody says that's him staying, he's happy to stay. I don't know how somebody can actually write this because it's a lot of nonsense. If somebody comes in and gives him the right money, he's off-ski. And remember, this was a disgruntled boy at the tail end there before we got to the coronavirus, interestingly enough. John Black has said, I had a slot in the back of the telly. When you put money in it, it allows you to watch the telly for 3 hours.
Yep.
Which, do you guys remember that?
I remember that, yep. I remember that.
Yep.
And
Okay.
I also remember the telly man coming round on a Friday. The telly man and the insurance man, the man for the Prue, came round on a Friday and they picked up your telly money in a wee book and went away.
That's a great line because
Hughie was very naive. His mommy didn't even have a telly.
over and above that, Tam, you can always remember great catchphrases when I used to say, who is the man coming round for the money every week? You know, it's something like £1. And I can always remember my mum saying, enough money to bury you, son. That's all you need. And there you are. That sums it up beautifully. So John Black, thanks for that. That's a lovely memory there, John, of telly. Some of the kids nowadays would not believe you put money in the back of a telly to watch it for 3 hours. Incredible stuff. Okay, listen, just before we get to Roughie's team, which is well worthy, and a great interview with John McGinn, well worthy of watching. 2 years ago, and it's hard to believe, Tam, it's 2 years ago since Neil Cooper passed away. Now, I talked to countless Aberdeen players who are absolutely, heartbroken. His nickname was Tatty. He was a really funny guy. I'll tell you, he was an absolute demon on the pitch. He didn't mess about, but a good player as well. And just tragic circumstances, the loss of someone so young. Neil Cooper, one of the Gothenburg greats, Tam.
Aye, and I'll tell you, not a bad impressionist as well. I don't know if you were ever privy to that part of his life, but I remember we had him in the telly a good number of years ago now, and the impressions he did that night, if him down at the BBC had realised that, Jonathan Watson was going to become unavailable, let's say, for only an excuse that year, you could have got big Neil Cooper straight in. The voices that he was doing one after the other, his favourite, of course, being, for obvious reasons, Sir Alex Ferguson. They were just sensational, and he was just a right good laugh. And I'll tell you, Peter, if you scour about social media enough today, and my apologies, I think I actually saw it on Facebook, my wife's Facebook, I think the boy's name was Derek Irvin, I think he might be a professional photographer, and he'd put back up today the great tribute that they had to Neil Cooper at Pittodrie Stadium no long after his death. And this guy put up a picture, and the caption that he just said was, Neil Cooper, even after his death, still been able to make so many people laugh. And he just captured this photo, and you saw sitting there at the ceremony, the tribute for Neil Cooper. It was Gordon Strachan, Mark McGee, Stuart Kennedy, Willie Miller. It was all the greats for that era. And they are just sitting there. It could almost have been like a screenshot of the celebrity audience at an audience with Billy Connolly when they were just in floods of tears, great laughter, big giant smiles on their faces. And this is exactly the same that they were given to Neil Cooper, just a great big lad. And when you talk about, memories of that, even earlier this week, apologies if you'd already paid tribute, but the boy Christian and Mbulu, who'd been at Motherwell for a wee while, only got 6 games, but 23 years old. It's not the sort of news you're wanting to hear when everybody is already you know, a wee bit down with everything that's happening globally now, but terrible, terrible tragedy that at his age. And you're right, the memories that must have come flooding back, primarily, of course, for Aberdeen fans. Neil Cooper, just what a great, great player.
Yeah, I actually remember a cracking moment, Hugh, which kind of summed up Fergie. Mark McGee tells this great story. He just basically said Fergie for the full week had said to him, listen, you, Charlie Nicholas is going to take the mickey out of you. He's been saying it all over the place down in the west of Scotland. He is going to absolutely take the mickey. He'll be nutmegging you and everything. And Mark McGee says, honestly, he says, Tatty was like a coiled spring. He was absolutely going mental. Every day Fergie was saying, Nicholas is going to take the absolute out of you. And he says, by the time we got to the game, he said he was ready to spontaneously combust. He says, and the referee blew the whistle. He says, and in 1.2 seconds, Cooper had smashed Nicholas up into the air and got a yellow card in 5 seconds. He says Fergie had wound him up that much that he smashed Nicholas 5 seconds and he was done. I mean, you can imagine Fergie just coaxing him every day and winding him up.
I mean, and all those young boys that Fergie had.
Of course, he scored the fantastic fourth goal against Rangers when he broke through and hit it off Jim Stewart, and it trickled towards the line, and you're just watching him, waiting to see when he's going to actually smash it into the net. Mm-hmm. And obviously when he smashes it into the net, he's at the wrong end of the stadium, but he still celebrated.
Yeah, and then ran away, as you do. As you do. But nevertheless, part of the Gothenburg greats, Neil Cooper, sadly, another one of those footballers taken from us so young. And I'm glad you mentioned Christian and Bulu as well, Tam, because so many Motherwell players and the club itself has paid some really poignant tributes to that young lad. And our heart goes out to their family at this moment. So sometimes we like to talk about footballers no longer with us and what they contributed to the beautiful tapestry of our game. But of course, sometimes we like to look back at great careers. Tam McManus has had a host of clubs and he came up with 11 that he played with. Roughie, you've come up with 11 that you've played with, and it's a belter. I mean, let's have a look and see why you've chosen this 11.
Yeah, well, obviously, go through with Andy Gorham. Andy Gorham took over from me at Hibs. Andy took over from me in Scotland, so I know what he was all about. Super goalkeeper, lacking in inches, but had everything else to go with it. And what can I say about the other two? Danny McGrain and Sandy Jardine. Play them in any side of the park, it wouldn't have mattered. The two of them were just fantastic defenders going forward. Wonderful to be in. Alan Hansen, I had the privilege of playing with young Alan at Partick Thistle before he went to Liverpool. Everybody could see then the quality was. I can't believe he got more. He should have got more Scotland caps. There's no doubt about that. And Gordon McQueen, I always liked the big centre half in front of me. I'll never forget the first night that Gordon got his cap. We were walking onto the park and he said, Roughie, he says, don't be coming for any corners. He says, because if I don't get headed in the ball 50 yards, I'll get fun out immediately. So that suited me right down to a T. So, no, Big Gordon was absolutely superb. And we missed him in the World Cup. He got injured just before we left and it was a big, big loss. You've already touched on John Robertson. Physique of the guy wasn't there, but he had that 15, 20 yards. You know, he could go by anybody with the ball. And it wasn't pace that was taking him there, it was just the ability to do it. Tommy Burns at Celtic. I've already spoke about Tommy for the first day I went to Celtic to I left. He was, I mean, we've all been watching what is that programme, Peter? The Last Dance?
Yes.
Thing, mate. Tommy Burns epitomised that for me in football. No, an absolute winner. And what he did was he made other people winners. And you could see that visibly, you know, when he was even at training, you could see players lifting their game and being a better player. And he set a standard that everybody had to play up to. And it was the same as that Last Dance programme. Graham speaks for itself, you know, absolutely oozing of confidence. I played with Graham in the Scotland under-18 team when we got to the semi-final of a UEFA tournament, and he never changed for that day. Even as a young boy, he knew he had absolute quality and a super player. Another one, a leader on the park, something that you always get a lot of respect from. Joe's best, brief moment at Hibs, an absolute joy on and off the park, particularly if he asked you out on a Saturday night. It was a wee Brucey bonus if you could go out with him in Edinburgh. But unbelievable ability. I mean, I only got him the latter end of his career, but he must have been something. I know he was at 26 when he retired.
Yeah.
I mean,
Incredible.
some of the goals we see on the telly. Again, you'll remember. What was it? He scored 6 goals in the mud. He just waltzed by people. He just waltzed by people in the mud, and he was super. And the 2 up front, for me, good guy, bad guy, and certainly Joe Jordan would put himself about, and Kenny would get all the spin-offs from it. So these 2 for me would be a handful for any team that we played, and obviously with Robertson and Best given the ammunition, I'm sure they'd be a good side.
Oh, that for me is a fantastic team. Hugh McDonald, I would suggest to you right now, you might disagree with me, I would suggest Roughie has named a team which contains 7 world-class players.
Right off the top of my head, McGrain and Jardine, McGrain, Hansen and Jardine, Robertson, Souness, Best, and Dalglish would get into a squad for undoubtedly world-class players, yes. And the other ones, by the way, are merely very, very, very good
players. Yeah, absolutely. So there you are. Now, here's the answer to maybe Tam, can you give me the answer to our PFA team of the season? What year do you think that was the team of the season?
I would have said 2009.
2009. Hugh?
I'll go a year earlier, 2008.
Roughie?
I'll go 2006.
Okay, 2006, which is surprising you've gone for that, Rafi, on the basis that our producer told us the answer before we went on air. It's 2007. Anyway. You not hear him, okay. Right, Rafi.
No, I didn't.
Anyway.
No.
You didn't hear him, right? Listen, the thing is, Tam, before we get to John McGinn's interview just coming up, which is really, really good, can I ask you this? Who do you see for the first time, when you're allowed to see one friend, with the social distancing out in their back garden? Who do you pick?
The first friend. Wow. Well, I think actually, and some of them are my friends. It's some people who own, and I won't name them, some fantastic restaurants. Because gradually, I met up with one of them last week because he'd started a takeaway collection service. So it was good to see my old pal Monier, who's got his Indian restaurant, and there are another 2 that I frequented pre-lockdown, and rather than take advantage, as they were advising, of like Deliveroo and Just Eats and Uber Eats and all that stuff, I says, no. Think of the times we've been living in. Even though I'll need to keep 2 metres away, I would much sooner come down to your premises, say hello, have a wee blether at a safe distance, and then take my grub back up the road. So absolutely, it'd be some of my restaurateur pals. But I must be honest, Peter, what I've got into, I've got another one tonight, and I've done one each of the last fortnights with the WhatsApp video chats with assorted pals. I sit here in my office, I get the phone up, stick the charger in it, go to WhatsApp, have a wee drink at hand, and have a good old natter about the football and everything else with my pals. It's been very, very good, that. Very good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the great thing is, Hugh, some restaurants now, and I really want them to survive, some restaurants are going to do, home deliveries, which is great. My old, I certainly enjoy going to Prego and Curluke, and they're going to do a home delivery service, which is magic. My best pal in Edinburgh, who owns Giuliano's, they're doing a home delivery service. service as well, but I think I'm ripping the arse out of it, asking him to fire it in from Edinburgh to the west of Scotland. But I'm going to test his phone
to be fair though, Peter, you just told tens and tens and tens and tens of thousands of people that they do home deliveries. So I think a wee bit of pasta's not a bad pat in the back for that.
Absolutely. Hugh, who would be the first person you'll meet?
My partner, is that what you call it nowadays? My partner Alison, who was self-isolating before the lockdown. So I don't even know how long it is now. 10 weeks? Something like
10
that.
weeks? Yeah. 10 weeks is
I don't know.
Absolutely.
It's just, I've just gone completely into a different time zone, but it's been a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm just waiting
Roughie?
for Tam to make a joke here as well.
No, he's hanging fire.
Nothing about you need a wheelbarrow to carry it in. Nothing, not at all.
Ruffy?
Obviously, I'd love a game of tennis with you. If we could get out, that'd be great. Just to get a bit of fresh air and run about for a wee while. But we have a Zoom quiz night every Thursday night with Ronnie and my pal Kingy, who you met. Kingy's still celebrating Celtic. Obviously, been getting the championship, so we miss his partner. So that would be your drinking buddies and people you have a good laugh with is what you miss, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Kingy's, Ruffy's pal Tam, who I've met a few in my life, by the way. It's fair to say an unhinged Celtic fan who wears green pants and green vests and no other colour. Loon ball is what you would call them.
Yeah, my favourite Tam, just to sum up how much a loon ball he is, we took him to the Player of the Year Awards and he had a few drinks and he said to me, "Oh, there's Willie Miller. Could you introduce me to Willie Miller?" And I went, "Tam, you had a wee bit to drink." And he said, No, I'll be sensible. I'll not do it. And he goes up and I says, "Willie, I could introduce you to my pal Kingy." And his first words was, "How you doing, Willie? Have you bumped into Alan Hansen recently?"
It's just your worst nightmare as a pal.
Oh, no.
Absolutely. Anyway,
that was after they got a selfie with Brendan Rodgers and the rest of the Celtic team.
Yes, absolutely. Now,
Did Brendan Rodgers let MDL in a selfie?
Yeah, good point, Tom. Good point. That'll not get back to him. Anyway, apart from anything else, let's hear from a man who I think we all hope is at the absolute top of his game and is selected for Scotland when we need to get past the playoffs to the Euro Championships, which will be Euro 2021, to be perfectly honest with you, with a bit of luck. I caught up with Aston Villa midfielder John McGinn. Well, I'm delighted to say our special guest on the Football Show is Aston Villa midfielder John McGinn. John, thank you for joining us on the programme. First and foremost, are you fit and well? Is the family fit and well?
Aye. I'm not sure about fitness-wise, but I'm trying my best to keep occupied. Obviously, we're very fortunate we've started back training, but just before the lockdown, I was getting back into training with the team, so it's actually given me a lot more time to get match fit and get right, and hopefully with the game starting back next month I'll be ready to go. It's obviously a strange time for everyone. The hardest thing for me, it's just me and my girlfriend down here. Stephen's had a baby girl that's 9 weeks old and we haven't met her yet, but the main thing is we're all healthy and well, and that's the most important thing.
Obviously, there's a sense of frustration with no football. In a way, was the lockdown a blessing for you because it gave you that little extra bit of time for recuperation to get 100%?
I think the position we're in as a club, we don't have the strength and depth that can deal with three main players getting injured. I got injured on the 21st of December, and then two of our other regular starters, Tom Heaton and Wesley, got injured, so it was very tough for everyone at the club, and maybe there was a little bit of pressure on me getting back fit, so I'm sure no one envisaged this happening. I certainly didn't, so I was preparing on getting back as soon as possible, but I have slightly benefited from it because it's given me more time to try and get the ankle right and get ready for when it comes back.
Yeah, I think everybody wanted to see football back rather than it suddenly being handed out as a title and then possible relegation. How important is it for you that the season is finished and Villa?
I think we are very confident in the ability we've got that we can stay up. I know every kind of country and situation is different, but the feeling I have down here, especially with the testing being ramped up, we've been tested twice a week for the past couple of weeks. There's just a feeling that it's going to be back, and everyone at our club is excited for it. We're looking forward to it returning and hopefully earning the right to be in the Premier League for another year.
Yeah, does that testing just ease your mind as a professional footballer?
It does. I think it's we're obviously very fortunate that the clubs in the league are providing it. There was obvious doubts from players to going back to training. But for me personally, I was just kind of itching. That was a selfish kind of point of view. I was itching just to get back training, but it certainly does help with the testing. I know it's very expensive, so not everyone's willing and able to do it. But we are very fortunate that it does give you a little bit of comfort. You're probably more risk going to a supermarket than you are going to training, so it lets us focus on what we do best, and I'm sure everyone in the country, and even up in Scotland as well, I'm sure they want to watch the Premier League again. Yeah,
was there a wee fear in the back of your mind that there was not going to be any football played and suddenly Villa would be relegated?
I have kept an eye on that. Obviously, it's unfortunate for Partick Thistle and then Hearts. So I do keep an eye on it, and when the discussions were brought to the players, I did sort of mention it. I did say we need to be careful that this doesn't happen, but it's out of my hands. It's out of the players' hands. We just got to try and get ready to come back and prove that we're deserving of being in the league. I know I would be disappointed and hurt if the points per game kind of formula came into the Premier League. I don't think it will happen, but we've got to be prepared for every eventuality, and unfortunately Hearts and Partick Thistle have suffered, but we're lucky that this league's got the finances and hopefully the capability of getting the games completed.
Yeah, that's the bottom end of it for Villa. Would you have any problem of Liverpool winning the title? And do you think now with the games going, it's only a matter of time?
I think it's only a matter of time. I don't think anyone can argue with the same with Celtic. I don't think anyone could argue. I think even, to be fair to a lot of the Rangers supporting people, I know we're all saying the same thing. Celtic were deserved winners of the league, and I don't think anyone could argue that Liverpool will go on and do the same. So, us as players, we've just got to try and focus on training and getting fit, and then the powers that be, whether that's the club owners, chief executives, and doctors, they're all coming together to make sure that it is safe to get back.
Yeah, you know what it's like up here in Scotland. They're still arguing and saying there'll be an asterisk and it's a tainted title and it's hollow. That's the kind of madness we argue about up here, John.
I would say I'm missing it, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It does seem to ramble on, but I suppose that's what keeps it all healthy. And when I was born, it was Rangers that were having the success, and it's now Celtic's time. So it'll be swings and roundabouts, and I'm sure the arguments will be there for years to come.
Yeah, absolutely. Just now getting back to the football on the park, I've been watching the Bundesliga. Boy, it's a hard watch without any fans. Are you going to find that difficult?
It's going to be tough. I think when you're used to reacting to certain things and reacting to certain atmospheres, you get used to it. I don't think, for example, say when I was at Hibs, I couldn't imagine going to Tynecastle with no fans. And I've watched a couple of the Bundesliga games, and it is a bit strange, but everything's a bit strange now. Even going for a chip is strange. You stand outside and get your order outside. So I think we've got to try and adapt as best we can. Nothing's going to be ideal, but the main thing is everything gets back as safe as possible. And if it means no supporters for a while, then so be it.
John, I've got to be honest with you. If you go on to ever play for Manchester United, Real Madrid or Barcelona, I am going to hold that line dear to my heart that you have stayed grounded when you're waiting outside in the line for a chippy.
I don't think you wouldn't get a saucy supper in Barcelona, I don't think.
That's absolutely brilliant. Listen, the great thing about your performances is everybody in Scotland is just willing you to do the absolute best you can, and you've been, from Hibs to Aston Villa, it's just been a constant climb as a youngster, and now are you still ambitious? You want to stay at the absolute top and reach the absolute top?
Aye, absolutely. I think if you'd asked me 5 years ago if I was going to be playing in the Premier League, I'd have laughed at you. But the more and more you play, the more and more you play games, you get more confidence in yourself and sort of try and iron out the errors you were making. And I'm only 25. I've had a tough paper round, but I've still got ambitions to go as high as I can. Really, I'm at a great club in Aston Villa, a sleeping giant. Really, when you look at the history and what they've achieved, so I'm in the right place to prosper and develop, and I see no reason why Aston Villa can't get back to the top English football. I'd be privileged to be a part of that, but we've got to focus on making sure the club stay in the league it deserves to be. Yeah,
and when they hear you linking you with 1,000,001 other clubs, are you grounded enough to just brush that off?
I'm lucky enough. I've been kind of used to it. You sort of, I've went through most summers being linked with teams. Certainly, each summer has gone on, it's been kind of different statures of teams. Even when I was at St Mirren, there would be links here and there, and initially you find it hard to deal with. But as Neil Lennon once says, it's just noise. It's just background noise, and if you're not performing on the park and things are affecting you off it, then you're going to suffer. So I've kind of learned that you just need to focus on playing your football, and things will come your way. A big kind of period of that was last summer when Hibs were playing. 2 summers ago when Hibs were playing in the Europa League. My full focus was on Hibs. It would have been very easy at that time to let my head spin otherwise, but that was massive for me, and if ever a situation arose like that again, I would do the exact same thing.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Neil Lennon there. Do you? I know you, as a boy, you were a Celtic fan. Did you watch on at their performances this season?
I wasn't surprised at all. Not in the slightest. He loves to attack. It was brilliant for me. We clashed early on, 2 kind of reasonably big characters, I would say. But the kind of more and more we worked with each other, the more respect we had, and he kind of took my game to the next level. He gave me so much belief, and he's certainly done that with a lot of the Celtic players. Brendan Rodgers had done a brilliant job at Celtic, but Gaffer was a winner. He still remains a winner, and there is no real surprise to me how well he's done.
Did you tell him you were going for a chippy at any stage?
The good thing about the Gaffer, he'd have came with me.
You're going to get caned for that one.
No, for man management wise though, he's brilliant. You can go and speak to him about anything. You can be honest. If he said what you had for dinner last night, if you said anything, he'd have just laughed, because it doesn't. Some managers go into a job and they forget they've been a player. But to be fair, Neil Lennon, he never really forgets that, and he remembers what it was like.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great quality. I mean, I know him really well. He's got a wicked sense of humour. Did you have some good ding dongs with him?
I did. There was a famous one, I've said it before, that when we played St Mirren at St Mirren Park, St Mirren beat us that night 2-0, and Stephen played really well. and he said, best player in the league, you're not even the best player in your house. It was about an inch away from my face while he was saying it as well. No, but it was a kind of relationship we had. We respected each other. Obviously, I grew up watching him as a Celtic fan. I respected him as a player, so the transition was strange, but one I kind of got used to pretty comfortably.
John, you're in a relegation battle at the moment. I'm amazed that you find yourselves in that because of some of the special players you've got. One in particular sticks in my mind because I love watching him. How good is Jack Grealish?
Oh, he's brilliant. Comfortably the best player I've played with. Obviously, there's a sort of image, sort of reputation that follows him about. He's had a couple of bits of bad press, but I'm lucky enough to work with him and see the dedication he puts in. The performances at the weekend are no fluke. He is a good mate of mine, but to be honest, I couldn't spend the hours he spends at the training ground. He's there till 7, 8 o'clock some nights working on his physique, and I think even this year he's went from strength to strength, and it's just a mystery how he's not had an England call up yet.
How high do you think he can go in the game?
I'm honestly, I believe he could play anywhere. Just how skillful he is, how technically good he is. He could fit in any team in the Premier League comfortably. I know I'm biased, but I don't think anyone that watches the game and who loves it would take that away from him. Obviously, we're very lucky to have him at the moment, and I'm hopeful that myself and other lads can convince him to stay a bit longer. But we've got the potential to keep Jack. It's just about us as teammates to try and help him keep his boyhood team in the league, and that's what we're going to try and do.
Yeah, the amount of people that tell me he's a really good, down-to-earth lad. The only problem I might have with him is he looks as if he'd struggle to pass a mirror without having a right long look at it. He's a good looking guy. I once said there's 11 out of 20 between us. He's the one out of 10. No, he's actually he's not. He gets that image. It's because all the Villa mums love him, don't they? They all love him. He's the poster boy. Yeah, absolutely.
He used my picture to do the dishes.
Listen, let's get to Scotland. I'm desperate to see you back in the blue jersey. Did you have a feeling of confidence that we were going in the right direction under Steve Clarke to finally get there?
Absolutely. I know the qualification campaign wasn't what we'd hoped it to be, but we did qualify for the playoffs on merit. So we were going into that game, the first game against Israel. It was one we were all looking forward to. Since I've played with Scotland, we've not been lucky enough to have a full house. So it was one myself and all the boys were looking forward to. We'd kind of created a wee bit of positivity that had been lacking for a few years, and we do have a lot of exciting players. I think you see a lot of players thriving down here in English Premier League, and even in the Scottish Premiership, boys are coming into their own and playing so well. So there's a pressure for us to go and do that in the national stage, and it's a pressure we should enjoy. And it's up to us now to become the group of players that finally do get Scotland to a tournament.
Yeah, if we get excited about you, we're also getting excited about Billy Gilmore. How highly do you rate him?
I'm not surprised at all with the plaudits he's getting. He's a great guy. I'm lucky enough to meet him a few times. There was one memory I have of us training at Hampden, and he came up with his family to watch him train. I think it was just before he went to Chelsea, and you could just tell that it wasn't going to faze him. Really down to earth, really willing to work hard, and it's massive at that age. I know how difficult it is to compete in the Premier League, and he's doing that with Chelsea and getting Man of the Match awards. It's very early on in his career, obviously, but it's really exciting for the country, and hopefully he can complement what's already a really strong midfield.
Yeah, I'm always looking and thinking to myself, okay, if we can find a couple of, good defenders as well to back up the Tierneys and the Robertsons, keep it tight at the back, and then suddenly maybe keep Lee Griffiths fit, because I think a striker is so important for us to get goals.
Obviously, I'm fully aware of what Griff can do. I've been lucky enough to play with him a few times, and he, more than anyone, would be desperate to get back into a Scotland jersey. So maybe the breaks come at a good time for Griff as well. He was back playing with Celtic flying, so hopefully when we come back, the manager, who's been brilliant since he came in, will have an array of options. And it's important, I think, especially in the midfield area. We know if we don't perform in a certain Scotland game, the next game we're out. It's as simple as that. So hopefully we can get that into all the positions. We're strong at left back, and we're getting stronger in different areas, and hopefully we can become more rounded as a team, and get our identity back.
Yeah, have you ever had a chance to speak to the manager?
I spoke to him briefly just before the lockdown. Obviously, it was going to be touch and go for me, whether I was going to be fit. So we just spoke honestly about that. I had given myself a chance, as I always try and do. We had an honest conversation, and that's something the manager gives you. He gives you honesty. If he's going to leave you out, it's for the good of the country and for the good of the team. So we've got that respect there, and he's got good staff beside him. Alex Dyer has obviously been busy with Kilmarnock, but Stephen Reid keeps in touch pretty often to check in on how I'm doing. So it's good to have that support network, and good to kind of keep that club sort of feeling about the place, which is something he's managed to do.
Yeah, just a couple of points before you go, John, and I'm eager to find out what's the differences you've found between when you were playing in Scotland and playing in the Premier League in England now.
I think there's a lot of poor opinions on the Scottish game from down here. I'm definitely a big supporter of it. I don't think I scored many goals in Scotland. I don't think it was something that kind of attached to my game. Yep, the quality might be slightly better down here, as in if you give the ball away, you get punished a lot quicker. However, there's been goals that I scored in the Premier League that I would never score in Scotland. Just in Scotland, the players don't switch off. They're very honest. They stay with you. Whereas there's a lot more arrogance down here, and a lot more laziness that you can capitalise on. So there's no doubting there's a lot of physicality, sharpness, and quality down here. But I'm a big advocate of the Scottish game, and we certainly don't talk it up enough, because the transition for me was very, very easy because of how good the Scottish Premiership is. And I think a lot of the players who have played in Scotland, Big Van Dijk, Andy Robertson, to name a few, Kenny, none of us have struggled to adapt. So I don't think we should be talking it down. I think we should continue to talk it up, and we've got a great product, and long may that continue and keep getting better.
Yeah, absolutely. Here. I hope you keep that fight going, by the way. The other point I was going to make to you on that is, who's the toughest guy you've come up against in that league?
There's been a few different ones. Some days have been really mentally tough. Man City away, you just don't touch the ball. So I would say Kevin De Bruyne. I would say Kevin De Bruyne, and that just, I've been unfortunate enough to play against him for Belgium a couple of times as well, and he's just someone that always seems to have a yard of space. He's deceivingly strong, deceivingly quick, and he's just got everything to be a top player. So lucky enough to have played against him. Well, lucky and unlucky enough. But he's definitely the best I've played against in the Premier League.
A few of my Edinburgh mates who are Hibbies would absolutely give me it in the neck if I didn't ask you about the cup final. We were watching it again over the last couple of weeks, reminiscing with more than a few players. I was talking to David Gray about the whole event, the day as well. It must be something that you're very, very proud of.
I would still say it's up there with my biggest career achievement. Just the fact, the whole. And by the way, no one in England understands it when I talk about it. Just the desperation for the Hibs supporters to get that trophy and to be the team and to be involved in that team that provided it for them was something I'll never forget. The party that night, the party the next day in Edinburgh, it was just surreal. And I don't think in my career I'll ever experience anything like that again. It was just mad, and I still keep an eye on Hibs results, especially with Paul being there. It was just a great time to be a player there, and hopefully they can keep on progressing, and it's not 114 years before the next trophy.
Yeah, and I presume winning that trophy has given you the desire to say you want to be a player who wins more medals.
It makes you hungry. I think even a big factor in us winning that day was the League Cup defeat. Full credit to Ross County for winning that day. But we felt as if we should have gone on and won that. And then losing to Falkirk in the playoffs was really tough to take. So we didn't want that feeling again. And I think everyone touches on it, how confident we were getting into the game. Because everyone had been fed up of becoming runners-up, becoming the team that was nearly winning a treble, was nearly winning a double, and thankfully we proved a lot of doubters wrong that day, which made it even sweeter.
Yeah, last point, and just picking up on something you said to me, I know you fight the fight down there in England about the standard up here and what we're doing and the players that are coming through. Of the Scottish Premiership, how many of those teams do you think would hold their own?
I always get asked this question. I think it's very, very hard to compare. I couldn't possibly compare. I just individually, players wise, I always kind of try and say, could he play in the Scottish Premiership? And a lot of the time, the people criticising it have either had the opportunity and turned it down, or came up and failed. So I think that tells you a lot about the people who are quick to kind of slaughter Scottish football. So I do think it's hard to kind of place where teams would finish in England and what division, because obviously clubs in Scotland have got very, very different budgets. So some would compete quicker than others. And I just think the hunger and the honesty that Scottish people have for football is something we need to cling on to, and the honesty of the sport. I think VAR's very controversial down here, but in Scotland you still get mistakes, you still get talking points, and you can still go on about it all week on your show or other ones to that extent.
Yeah, John, keep flying the flag. It's been an absolute joy talking to you. I'm so glad you're 100% fit. Let's hope Villa can escape relegation, and let's hope you're back in the blue of Scotland, winning games and taking us to major finals. Thanks for joining us.
No problem, season.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but Tam, what a grounded young man.
Absolutely, but I didn't hear most of it because after I think the third minute of the interview, Peter, I dashed out to my local chip shop as well. He put me right in the mood for it. Dear me, I'm sitting here with a Deza Connor. It was like chip shop this, chip shop that, chip shop this, sitting here slavering. But you know what? Fair play to John McGinn and all that, but we were talking earlier about the great Scotland teams of the past. If you want to know why we can't win anything these days, it's because our players are going to the chip shops. Simple as that. What was wrong with Yo Sushi?
To be fair, Roughie, there was a few who had a sausage supper and could still play.
Yeah, I remember Kenny Dalglish used to always come up to Scotland to buy the square sausage. That was his favourite. He couldn't get it done, and obviously Liverpool, he used to get the big Lorne sausages sent into him. It was his favourite.
Yeah, it's all about ability, Hugh. I don't know about you, Hugh, but I thought it was brilliant. He said, you know, he was flying the flag for Scottish football. Sometimes we're a wee bit too harsh on our game.
Yeah, he was very interesting about that, scoring goals in the Premiership that he wouldn't, the Premier League, he wouldn't score in the Scottish Premiership because of, players being a bit lazy. And I actually saw him at the beginning of the season at Spurs. I think it was the first game of the season I was down. and he scored an absolutely cracking goal that day. Very good technical goal, but it was because he wasn't tracked from midfield and he found himself in a lot of space. But he's a great interview, frank, honest. One of these guys that you just wish the best for, don't you? You just say, "Go on, son, do the best you can. We're all behind you," kind of lad.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to speak to John McGinn. Tam, what's on the agenda tonight? Is there a red wine and a chippy? What's on the agenda?
Tonight, well, Thursday, you tend to find that I've got options tonight with the food, which is absolutely brilliant, because a lot of the places, my favourite spots that have reopened for delivery or for collection, as I said, I prefer, a lot of them are just doing the Thursday to Sunday thing, which was always the peak periods anyhow. So loads of options tonight, but I have got a video call at 8 o'clock with my former editor at the Scottish Sun, who I'm sure a few of you know, Gordon Smart. Big heavy as well, Peter, as you know only too well. So I've got a wee. It's been great. I've been sifting through my contacts in my phone and just looking and saying, who have I not spoken to for ages, And then rather than just sitting watching ad nauseum repeats, as much as I love it, of Alan Partridge or Cheers or The Golden Girls, which was only recently started repeating on Channel 5, quality programming. But instead of just sitting there watching the telly, or having for fun talking to the wife, you think, I'll just dig out an old pal and get a blether with him. So it's been magnificent. I keep saying it, if anybody finds a vaccine for us, they've got me to answer to.
Yeah, absolutely. I can think of that other gag about the Scottish guy in Braz, but I won't tell you that one now. Roughie, what's on the agenda for you?
Something to eat, obviously. I'm going to take all the apparatus outside, sit outside in the sun. I've got a quiz night at 6:30. But now Tam's told me the Golden Girls are back. I'm definitely looking into that. They were cracking, by the way.
And you know what's really sad? That's really sad. Remember the days, Peter, 3 months ago, the question to Rafi would have been, who's on the agenda tonight?
Absolutely. Hugh, do you need me to come round and give you money for the back of the telly?
No, I'm just looking at the time, Peter. This show's going on for. We're into extra time and penalties, so I'm just going straight to my bed.
On that note, thanks to Tam, thanks to Hugh, thanks to Rafi, thanks to John McGinn as well. Don't forget to like, share and follow on our Facebook, and of course you can subscribe on our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching.
Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.